the sponge underneath, the yeast, is starting to grow up
come up
through the dough.
But like you said, so it's a slow rise, though, and that's part of what's going to develop the flavor for the bread?
Exactly. It makes a big difference, just that 1 hour. And I like to use the dough hook, and it's designed for bread. Thank you.
Okay.
And always start slowly because the flour has a tendency to want to jump out. I was about to steal that plastic wrap.
Oh, no. I'll give you another piece.
Thank you.
I'm trying to clean up.
A dish towel, or the splash shield, but
Here
just to be sure that the flour doesn't jump up and cover you.
Okay.
Start on low speed. It didn't. I love these low speeds now because you can start really slowly. And as soon as it starts getting more liquid, the liquid works into it. You can raise the speed. Yeah, we lock it into place. This bread dough is stiff, so it could walk, and you never want to leave the mixer at this point unattended. And then we never go higher than 4 in a mixer.
And what are we looking for at this stage?
Now we're kneading it and developing what is called the gluten, the protein in the flour, which forms the network for the bread dough. So we need this to knead for about 7 minutes. What we're looking for here is to just mix the dough until all the dry ingredients are moistened, but it will be a rough dough as it is. And if it seems a tiny bit dry, we can add the smallest amount of liquid. And then normally what we would do is let it sit for 20 minutes. That's called the autolyse. And that's a way in which to allow the moisture of the dough to incorporate more evenly so that you don't end up having to use as much flour.
So this will have sat for 20 minutes, and then the next step is to do what?
We're going to add the salt and the duxelle.
I'll get the duxelle.
Before kneading the dough. And you see, when you add salt too early on, it tightens up the proteins and the gluten.
Oh, I was wondering where the salt was going to be. Now, do I add all of this at this point? Oh, so this is going to be a very moist dough.
I lock it into place because it's a stiff dough. And at this point, we're kneading it. It takes, say, 7 minutes to get a nice, elastic, soft dough and mix in all that duxelle. And now the dough is completely kneaded, and you'll see how smooth and silky it is.
And you can see a real elasticity.
Exactly.
Oh, look at this. Oh, it's so silky.
It should feel a little bit sticky. I don't punch down dough. I don't think dough should be treated so vigorously.
Okay, so no punching.
Push it down, and then
a light spritz. And why do we do that?
Because that keeps it from drying out and crusting. And
what a great tip.
Also, you're creating a little sort of proof box in this bowl by putting plastic wrap on top so that it can be warm and rise, because we want it to rise until double.
And at this point, you use the visual cue until double, but it's about how long?
Exactly. It takes about an hour for this particular recipe if it's 80 degrees. If it's colder, then it might take a little longer. Sometimes I'll put a piece of tape on the bowl where about double would be.
Oh, I see. To give the height. You would. That's great.
And I usually let this have
idea.
2 rises. So here's how it's going to look when it's doubled, and you can tell not only by visually seeing that it's approximately double, but when you stick your finger in, I usually put it in some flour first so it doesn't stick, it holds the
Ooh, may I? I want to feel it.
By all means.
Oh, wow. Oh, what a great texture. I put 2 holes.
Oh, well, it's not going to show.
Okay.
And then on the lightly floured counter, I'm just going to empty it out and deflate it gently. I call it deflate instead of punch. So you're just emptying it.
Oh, it's beautiful. What a nice texture.
A little bit of dough like this could be a roll because it increases at least 3 times by the time it goes in the oven. And this makes the yeast more even. See, I'm gently dimpling, they call it, in the tray and forming it into a rough rectangle. If the dough is very stretchy, you can use a rolling pin to roll it out.
But you might risk deflating it a little.
I wouldn't care at that point because it's going to rise a second time.
Okay.
And then I give it an envelope fold.
So
or letter fold, rather.
A trifold.
Business letter this way. And you can even do it a second time because that helps to form a nice round package. And you can see how airy and wonderful this dough is.
It really is alive.
And then we just round it up like
and we have one at that stage. Here you are.
And you can see the difference because that's been allowed to sit and rise yet a second time.
And it's all the slow risings. This is what's improving texture and flavor.
Yeah, and the fact is that you can be doing other things and you just go and visit the bread every once in a while and smell it and feel good. And know that you have something alive, because this really is. The yeast is still alive. It's alive until it goes into the oven, and there the heat kills it.
Now, if you have a gas oven at home, do you like to use a pilot light, the warmth of an oven
it's
to
too
rise?
hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah, because a pilot light is about 120 degrees. It's perfect for melting chocolate.
See, I never knew what the temperature was.
took
I
it.
should count on you that you would know that.
Yeah, wouldn't you? You know, I used to produce
just
thermometers.
That's right, I should just call Rose. Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to be shaping it into a cylinder, and I don't want to have any cracks on the side, so I'm just going to gather it up first.
Now, you're putting it into a cylinder shape because
Exactly.
this is what we're actually
pan.
putting it in. So we're baking it in this. We're not putting it in a bread pan. This is going to help shape our mushroom.
But we want to spray it to
We
make
wanna
sure
spray
that
it.
it comes out. So, this is going to be the
I'm doing all the
bottom.
complicated stages. She's just playing around
Standing
with the
back.
dough.
I get all the fun. Everybody wants to touch the dough because it's so silky. And if you see any big bubbles, deflate them.
Because that would be a big pocket. It would end up in the bread.
Now
Okay.
you want it, another way to know if you have the right amount of dough is by putting it in the pan beforehand. Because it should be 2/3 full. And I push it all the way down in.
Now, not only are we baking it in this can, which is such a neat idea, but I know that at this point we are going to let it rise.
It's about 2/3 full.
Okay, and
And
I
we
have
want
one.
to cover it and let it rise until it mushrooms over the top.
Now, do we spritz it now also?
Yeah, always spritz and cover. But you don't have to worry about that because we have
Okay.
the other one that's
I
standing
will bring
by
the other
for
one
us.
for you. And look at this. This is where you really get to see the mushroom shape. I
And
mean,
of course, the reason that you spritzed it with
So this
the
doesn't
baker's joy
stick.
or greasing
Great.
and flouring is because you don't want the plastic. Thank you.
now it's going to go in the
now
oven
it's
at
ready
this
to bake, and
point.
it's going to continue rising in the oven a little.
So 400
But you can
degrees,
see when
right?
you push it down that it's very airy and it's risen enough. It almost keeps the impression. Yeah, 400 degrees.
So hot
preheated
oven, that's going to help set the shape. And I know that once it goes in the oven, there's a little trick.
Yeah, I
right?
like to create steam.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Now,
I guess I will need a pot holder for ice cubes.
Should I
All
put the pot-
Put in the oven.
This
roll
goes in
down,
first.
and then we have a preheated pan underneath, so that when the ice cubes hit it, it creates a burst of steam. Thank you. Great. Okay, now just close it because it will go back in.
And that's going to create steam. And what is that doing for our bread?
It's going to give a crisp crust, help it to rise more, and here we have, after about 40 to 50 minutes, yes, a beautifully risen
A mushroom bread.
This one hadn't risen so much to mushroom over the side, so it's more
I can get the
of a
oven.
different variety. Oh, thank you. We want to mold it right away so that it doesn't steam. Careful, it might be
Yes,
hot.
little warm.
It will be hot.
Yes, little warm.
It might.
Look at that. Turn it up right.
Yeah, but you always cool bread straight up, if it will stand. And then, if you want to have a nice shiny top, you can brush it with some softened or melted butter. Since this is still hot,
This is going to add a little softness, a little flavor, and this beautiful shine.
of course, there's plenty of butter in the Duke's Salt too.
But a
And you know
little
what's
extra
fun
doesn't
is
hurt,
that when
right?
you cut rounds of it, you can cut the base, and it makes perfect round sandwiches for round sandwich meats,
Oh, what
or
a
you can
nice
just spread it with
idea.
butter, which is great.
Now, this bread was inspired by a family member,
I was just
wasn't
about to say,
it?
my Aunt Margaret is a mycologist, and that means a mushroom hunter and a mushroom expert. You have to be an expert because mushrooms can be very dangerous. She told me to make bread in a souffle dish to let it mushroom over the side, and I thought one day, but wouldn't it be fun for the bread to taste like a mushroom? This bread's stale, which takes 3 days to get. It makes the most fabulous stuff.
This mushroom bread smells as wonderful as I'm sure it tastes, and it looks like a mushroom. It has mushrooms in it, round sandwiches, as you mentioned. What a cute idea. And this would make a marvelous edible centerpiece.